Friends and viewer, good day. The Blind Owl. It is written by Sadiq Hedayat, a famous Persian writer and Iranian. The same is published in 1936. The Blind Owl. The name of this is The Blind Owl by Sadiq Hedayat. So, The Blind Owl was actually written in 1930, is one of the first works of Iranian modernist literature. Sadiq Hedayat, who born in 1903 and died in 1951, was the author of many surreal works of Iranian fiction that draw on his studies of traditional Persian literature and modernist European work. The Blind Owl is written in a fragmented, symbolic, dreamlike form from the point of view of an unreliable narrator who descends into substance misuse and mental physical decline because of his unrealized desire for beautiful women, whom he ultimately murders. The book's criticism of traditional Islamic practice and the conservative Iranian government led to it being banned in Iran, despite being widely regarded as a masterpiece of Iranian fiction. So, The Blind Owl, based on the Bombay edition of the original story. So, this material taken in depiction of sexual assault, murder, necrophilia, suicidal ideation, substance misuse, and stillbirth. So, in this novel is divided into two parts. In part one of The Blind Owl, the narrator described the incident that precipitated his decline. He is painting the same image of a young woman and an old yogi under a cypress tree on a pen cases sold by his uncle in India. One day his uncle comes to visit. When the narrator gets some wine from a high shelf to offer his uncle, he has an ecstatic vision of the scene he has painted repeatedly. After that, he becomes withdrawn from the world, begins drinking and smoking opium, and spent his days looking for the woman he saw in his vision. One evening, what happened that the woman from his vision appeared outside his house, walks in and lays down on his bed. He pours some wine into her mouth and then realizes she is dead. He has sex with her corpse and then spends the rest of the night trying to paint her likeness. When he finally has an image he is satisfied with, he cuts up her corpse and puts it in a suitcase. He finds an old man who has a horse. The old man drives them out into the mountains and digs a grave in which the narrator buries the suitcase. The narrator starts walking back to town when he runs into the old man again. The old man sells the narrator an ancient vase he found while digging the grave. When he gets home, the narrator realizes the face on the ancient vase is the same as the face of the woman he painted. The narrator smokes opium and feels compelled to write. In part two of the novel, The Blind Owl is the narrator's account of the same event, but told more realistically. The narrator is ill and rarely leaves his room. Out of his window, he can see the butcher at work and an old peddler. He lives with his aunt Nane June, and his wife, whom he hates. His wife is his first cousin, whom he married out of love for his aunt, who raised him. His wife refuses to have sex with him, but has sex with many other men. The narrator does not name her, but instead refer to her as a whore. One day, the narrator runs away outside the city gates and thinks about how he saw his wife naked as a young girl while they were playing near the river. When he returned, he has a nightmare about death. Upon waking, he screams, and his wife and aunt run to him. He feels he is dying and smokes more opium for relief. Later, Nani John tells him that his wife is sleeping with the old peddler. The narrator resolves to kill her. He goes to her room to do so, but he is unable to do it, throws away the knife. The next day, Nane June brings the knife back to him. That evening, the narrator fever breaks. He goes to his wife's room and has sex with her. In the middle of their intercourse, he stabs and kills her. Then he goes back to his room. He looks in the mirror and sees he has become the old peddler. When the narrator has finished writing his story, he looks up to see his ancient ways is gone. He looks for it, then sees that old man has stolen it. The old man runs out of the room and into that fog with the vase. The narrator gives up the chase, looks down to see that he is covered in blood, dirt, and maggots like a corpse. So this is the story of the blind owl by Sadiq Hedayat, the Iranian writer. So this is the blind owl by Sadiq Hedayat, and we can see in the uh, in this theme of this blind owl, we uh, we find uh, an urge of suicide, and what should we say? Where this is the tensions between modernity and tradition. The dominant theme and structure of The Blind Owl is the tension between modernity and tradition in the narrator's experience of Iranian life and culture. The narrator feels alienated and adrift in the present, continuously trying and failing to navigate or even escape from the pressure of both past and present that surrounds him. The form of the narrator itself is itself demonstrative of tension between tradition and modernity. The text is broadly divided between two narratives form, one in each part. The first form is the narrator telling a parable that is rich in symbolism and has a fable like logic. The second form is the narrator writing a more realistic account of the same event. He recounted it in parable form. The first part of the narrator is a symbolic representation of traditional Persian literature as it contains imagery and even evocative of mystical, idealized literary forms common in the Persian classic, particularly in a beautiful woman who enchants the narrator in an ecstatic vision brought on by wine. In the second part of the narrative, the young woman is portrayed more realistically. Instead of an idealized virginal woman, she is the narrator's own pregnant wife who expresses and acts upon a sexual desire. So, absurdity, Sadiq Hedayat, who was a pessimistic writer, later on he committed suicide and he think that the life is useless and baseless and he had committed suicide. So I hope you will enjoy this, The Blind Hall by Sadiq Hedayat. Thank you very much.